What is up, everybody? It's Wednesday. Sorry that we missed this week's Makeup Monday. I was waiting on a product to come in and it did not come in. And then this weekend was wild. I had some like family-ish going on, and then on top of that I had like freaking a bee get stuck in my apartment, which I still don't know where it is and if it's around. So if I like flinch, that's probably why, because I'm looking around trying to see, is it gonna come out at any point? Hopefully not. Hopefully it's gone. But here we are. It's a new day. Happy Wednesday. How are you guys doing today? My name is Nicolette Electra, and we're back with another video. I know, this is like my intro to everything. We're back with another video, all that kind of stuff, but it is what it is. So, here we are, it's Wednesday, and I just wanted to start kind of a new series, you know, sort of thing, and just go over different stories. I wanted to go over different stories of New York. New York is a place that I absolutely love. It was the first place that I traveled to as an adult. And since then, I just have been obsessed with it, and I go there on a pretty consistent basis. So with everything that's going on with coronavirus and it being like the epicenter of everything, it really breaks my heart. So I wanted to kind of talk about different stories and talk about the positivity of the city. And, you know, I believe it's going to bounce back. I mean, it's going to make these New Yorkers way stronger, but I just wanted to talk about the positive stories that I've had there, because it is truly an amazing place with just great people. So today's story that I wanted to go over is one that is just, I mean, as with all of them, honestly, it's one that's really close to my heart and really gave me a different perspective on the city itself. This comes back in, I believe it's like 2017. I planned an impromptu trip to visit my friend Gabby up there. And I go there, and honestly, off the bat, I went there with not a lot of money. And so I got there, and slowly the money was running out, but I was like, oh, it's gonna be okay, don't worry about it. This was around August, I'll write the date down here. And it was around that time frame, and as I was leaving, I remember I left on a Wednesday, and I was due to come back on like a Sunday or a Monday. And I left on Wednesday, and as I was leaving, my boyfriend was like,
hey, you know, there's this big storm that's coming.
And I remember thinking to myself, all right, whatever, big storm, you know, when you live in Houston, you know, every single year there is some sort of topic of discussion of, oh, some storm is coming, we all need to be careful, you know, and, you know, it's like the boy who cried wolf there, you know, every year there's like a new, like, oh, there's going to be a storm, and then usually it's not that bad. So I didn't really think anything of it. So I left, I get to New York, I had a great time with my friend Gabby, and on the last day before I go was a scheduled Lady Gaga concert, which I did previously talk about a little bit in a previous video, which I'll link somewhere over here. But anyways, so I remember vividly, you know, I was there, I was running low on cash, but I knew like Sunday was the day that I would leave, and once I would come back to Houston, I had like a $700 to $800 week coming up ahead. So I was like, it's just a matter of timing, don't stress it, Nicolette. Well, this storm ended up being very big. This storm ended up being actually very, very big. This storm ended up being Hurricane Harvey. And I remember watching it on the radio and saying like, oh, the freeways, they're all like underwater. And I was like, okay, like this literally happens in Houston on a regular basis with like things being filled up with water. Certain freeways being like overfilled, you know, it was like, it's no big deal. But as I would talk to my boyfriend and I talk to my parents, they'd be like,
no, like it hasn't stopped raining in like 3 days.
And, you know, my aunt lives near a bayou, and my aunt was sending me pictures, and I was like, oh my God, like that's crazy, what? To the point where the airport shut down for a few days because there was so much water on the runways that they didn't want to have people come in. So off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, what? All of my gigs were getting canceled. They were saying, yeah, the weddings are canceled, the events are canceled, like, you know, basically when you come back, you have no money. And I remember thinking, oh, shit. How am I going to make money, especially while I'm here in New York? Because, you know, when I go back, it's pretty evident, like everything was underwater. How am I going to make money to survive whatever this is that I'm going to go into? So I was sitting there and I was telling my friend and her boyfriend, I was like, look, y'all, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, how am I gonna freaking make money? Like, I'm applying to all these Craigslist gigs, but the catch was, if you're applying to Craigslist gigs, you know, it's good, but at the same time, like, sometimes they're gonna hire you a week or in 2 weeks. So if I reply today, I might not be here when they need me, per se. So I was definitely kind of pressed, and so my friend's boyfriend was like,
Why don't you just like write a sign and go down to Times Square and hold the sign up and say that you do photos?
and in my heart, I was like, dude, like, I'm not gonna bring myself down to that level of just being like, oh, hey, like, I'm here with the picket sign. You want some photos? It really was like hurting me to even think about doing that. It just seemed very like a beggar kind of a thing. And you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, I just knew it wasn't my style. But at the time, it was like, what are my other options? You know, I'm applying to gigs everywhere and like no one's responding. So I said, okay, that's fine. I used a little bit of money that I had and I got a sign, and I wish I took a picture of this sign, but it was like, in my heart, I was like, I can't. But I got this sign and I wrote down like photo shoots in NYC, you know, open rate, you know, something like that I wrote. And I had it two-sided and I would basically hold it. And I believe I had it to where I would have it in the front and then I had another one behind me with like 2 strings, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember being so embarrassed. I took the subway down there to Times Square. And first off, I didn't realize that in Times Square, the people who are like in those like Batman suits, Spider-Man suits, they can only be in certain squares. You can't just go on anywhere in Times Square with your sign. You have to be in these designated squares. So I did have a few cops tell me like, yo, you can't stand here, you gotta go in the box. I was like, all right. I made some friends within the box, but it was like the weirdest thing because, you know, everyone knows each other. I'm the new kid on the block and they're thinking like, why are you here again? Anyways, so I'm there, I got my sign on, and I was there for like 20-30 minutes, and like the rejection that I faced being in that box was crazy. You know, you'd look at the people as they would pass you by, and August is still kind of like the summer season. So there'd be thousands of people walking by, and they would just kind of look at you and keep walking. And I know how shitty that felt, thinking about just like, man, like, these people really are looking down upon me. And there's an ego and a pride thing that comes with that of just like, you don't want to be like lower than yourself, especially when you know your worth and you're like, you know, I'm pretty decent at photos. Like, you know, someone hire me, you need some photos. Screw this freaking cell phone photos. But, you know, I stood there. I was there for maybe like 40 minutes to an hour, and I had a guy come up to me and he goes, hey, you know, like, you take photos. He was a foreigner, and he comes up to me and he's like, hey, how much do you charge for this? I was like, honestly, dude, whatever you want. And he was like, okay. Because, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to, when you're in Times Square, have like a designated price point. It's more of a like pay as you want. So if you take a picture with Batman, you can give him 50 cents if you want. That's just what it is. I was like, yeah, whatever you want. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, where do you want to take pictures? He was like, oh, you know, right here, Times Square is great. I was like, all right. You know, the guy was maybe 25 years old. Snap, snap, snap. Took a bunch of pics. Great, 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 great. All right, dude, can I get your email? Yeah, sweet. Got his email down, wrote it down. And I showed him the pictures through the camera. And I was like, you're sure these look, you like these? He was, yeah, I like these. These look really good. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, yeah, you know, whatever you want. $5, $10, whatever. And he goes, is this okay? And he gives me a $50 bill. Yeah, of course, like, yeah, that's fine. $50 is great. Perfect. Thank you. But it just blew my mind that someone who traveled from wherever he came from to go to New York City was able to spend $50 on me and just help me out, you know, in that time. Of course, the guy didn't know my story. He didn't know that I had family in Texas, you know, with Harvey and all that kind of stuff. Which, now that I think about it, maybe I did put that on the sign. I don't really remember. But anyways, you know, he didn't know my story. He didn't know any of that. And he was able to give me some cash for the photos. And that $50 lasted me the remainder of my time. And I, you know, made use of it. $10 a day kind of thing, like eat at home sort of thing. And I remember thinking to myself, one, like, thank you to my friend's boyfriend who was so open to just give me some advice and it actually helping me. But two, just realizing that in New York, you can literally make anything happen. Now, I know that this is a small example, but when I think about New York City and I think about how many people and tourists come through this state or this city, or both, a year, it's really incredible, and everyone is there to spend money. And there's so many agencies depending on what you want to do in photography. If you want to go and be like a fashion photographer, you want to be a wedding, you want to be in events, you want to be a runway, whatever it is that you want to do, like, there are so many people there that you can make it. You know what I mean? Like, if you put in that hard work, that time, and let your ego down and do some work for free, you can make it. Now, he was the only person that ended up paying me after thousands of people, but only in about a 40-minute time frame that I was waiting there was I able to get that client, and that's kind of the point. In Houston, you can't do that. That's just the fact of the matter. You can't go sit on a corner without a police coming and being like,
hey, you got a permit? You got a permit.
In New York City, they have different laws. They have like free vending laws, kind of like here, that you can go on any street within certain parameters. There are certain streets that they don't allow people, and basically vend. You can have t-shirt sales, you can have book sales, you could have, friggin' take a picture with Batman sales, you can have that type of stuff, whereas in a place like Houston, that wasn't possible. So that just opened my eyes off the bat. But anyways, after that story was done, fortunately that $50 was able to get me through those next few days. But of course, by the time I came back to Houston, like, everything was total shit. Like, everything was shit. It's like people weren't looking like, oh, like, I just lost my house, but can you take some pics of me? It was like, nah, my house is gone. I lost everything, and you're not even like on my scope. Like, I'm sure photographers who were in real estate were probably getting some business just because like people needed that for insurance purposes. But in my field, which was primarily doing like portraiture, people, weddings, events, things like that, that went on the major slowdown for the next like friggin' year or two. The premise of this story is that honestly, whatever it is that you do, you can make it in New York City. And with all of this that's going on, especially in New York, thinking about just the subways and the transportation and just how freaking, everyone's gotten sick, it makes me so upset because I know how magical that place is, especially for me. And I have so many stories that I'm going to share over the next few weeks with you guys. But just seeing that, it breaks my heart. But I also know that New Yorkers are resilient and they will get through this. They will be strong. And I think about them very often, and I'm, it hurts me. It hurts me to see what's going on over there. But I just want to bring some light and talk about the beauties of the city and the amazing stories that I've had there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that if you guys are ever someone who's considering moving to New York or to a big city like LA, you realize that you can make it. You too can make it. There are people who will pay for your craft in these cities, and that's my motivation. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and we'll see you guys again next time. See y'all later.